breathe, relax, and I'm going to do a quick intro. And 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Never Too Late, Real Stories of Reinvention, where we share the stories of dream chasers, career changers, and people with the courage to reinvent themselves. I am Eric Cooter, your host, and each episode we're going to sit down with someone who has taken a leap, who's discovered a new path, or found joy in the unexpected. These conversations are about hope, resilience, and reminding us all that it's never too late to chase your dreams. This is episode 2. First episode was a little bit about my story, but today on episode 2, I have the joy and the absolute pleasure of having a conversation with one of my oldest friends. We have known each other for 25 years. Now, I'm not going to steal his thunder because he's got a lot to talk about, his own background and our connection. But Paul and I have been friends for 25 years, and I am just, he's been an inspiration to me. And I just think the world of him. He's like a brother to me. And Paul and I met when I was a flight instructor in Naples, Florida, 25 years ago at Naples Airport. And the reason I've got him on today is, like I said before, he's got a story to tell, and he's inspiring. And I've had some great moments with him in the airplane, and we may get a chance to talk about some of that tonight. So, Paul, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Eric. I really appreciate you having me on.
Excellent. So, Paul, think about when you and I met. Do you want to share a little bit of that story about how you and I met? And don't tell the bad stuff, though.
No, I've kind of told the story several times to a few people. When I say several times, I mean a lot of several times. Actually, kind of start with a little prelude. A friend of mine was a pilot. I had not been a pilot. I had never flown, didn't know anything about airplanes. And as a kid, I had some background with some airplanes from my dad, liked airplanes, and my neighbors and stuff. And he asked me over to the airport one day, said he was going to get a checkout and go up in the airplane. Would I'd like to go with him? So I just said, yeah, I'll go for the ride with you. So, of course, we went over to Naples Airport and went over to flight school there, and he got an instructor. Instructor's name happened to be Eric. And they introduced me to Eric and then jumped in the back of the airplane with him. Eric took Steve up for a checkout. Came back to the airport after the checkout, and I walked over to Eric and I said, I love telling this story because I said to Eric, I said, so what does it take to get a pilot's license? I don't know if Eric remembers it. He looked at me and he says, takes you being here at 9:00 tomorrow morning.
I remember it well.
And I said, you know what? You're on. I'll be here tomorrow. And I believe it was a Saturday morning. I went over to the Saturday or Sunday morning. Eric took me up for my first ride in a Cessna 172, left seat behind the controls. And we pulled out on that runway and that airplane left the ground. That was it for me. It was one of the best exciting things I'd ever done in my life. And I knew right at that point I was going to learn to fly. And Eric guided me through that adventure. And I ended up getting my private pilot's license.
Absolutely. Oh man, I do remember that day, and I'm hoping you'll share that little story about a couple things that I shared with you about the keys, and you pass that on to your students. So I'm sure there'll be chances for us to share some of those crazy things we share together.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul was my first student. I had just gotten my certified flight instructor certificate. Yeah, he was my first student. So you were the guinea pig, man. You were the guinea pig.
That's right. Yeah, I kind of remember that. And talk about patience. You have more patience than anybody, Saint Eric.
Well, you made it easy, my friend. You made it easy. So
did you.
Oh, thank you, sir. We had a good time. But we'll come back to aviation a little bit, and I appreciate that. Now, this aviation wasn't your first career, was it?
No, actually, late bloomer on that. I didn't start until I was 43 years old when I met you. And I was actually in the auto body business, auto collision business for since I was about 16 years old, actually.
Excellent. How'd you get started? How did you get started in that business?
Well, I actually in high school, wanted to go to the vocational school for auto mechanics. And funny how things end up being planned out for you. The auto mechanics school happened to be full. And they said, but we do have an open for the auto body. And I said, sure, I haven't thought about auto body, but I'll take the auto body course. Absolutely loved it. Graduated from the vocational school, got a job with a guy named Bob Goddard, who happened to be my mentor. And I worked for him for 6 years. He decided to retire, and I bought his business. Yep.
Share a little bit about. I mean, you part of the inspiration that I think you've given me is when you've told me your story about how you struggled, but you never gave up with your auto body business, because you had some hard times, right?
I did. I mean, we sold just about everything we owned, my wife and I. We got married very young, and we were struggling. And when I say struggling, we were broker than broke. And I ended up selling the car we owned, and we actually, the day I closed on buying the business from him, we didn't own a car.
Oh my gosh.
The auto body business came with a tow truck. So when we closed on it, my tow truck was actually a ride home after closing on the business.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
goodness. And I should have gotten a longer lease agreement from him, but I did very well for the first 2 years. And then after 2 years, I lost the lease on the property, and I had to go find another location for the shop. Luckily, on the 2 years that we did very well on, we put a lot of money away. And, I was such driven with the idea that I just wasn't going to fail. It was, no matter what, I was not going to fail at this. And it's very difficult for that type of a business body shop to find a location because of the nature of the auto body painting and all that. But I found a location and a guy that kind of helped me out quite a bit on a property that was back on our main road. And it's a really nice building, no windows, a tree growing through the roof.
Oh my.
Falling apart parking lot. I don't believe there was any electric or water. Only an insane person would have agreed to lease this building, and then I got an agreement to lease and purchase the building.
Oh wow!
With what money, I have no idea. The term leap of faith. If you look in the dictionary, my picture is next to that. It was literally a leap of faith.
Yeah, I remember you telling me a little bit about that story and some of the struggles you guys went through, and what I heard you say now is just this tenacity. This it's not a cockiness; it's an absolute confidence in yourself that no matter what, you're going to stick with it, man. And that's what got me.
I'm gonna make it work. And I've had people over the years, because I was 20. Let's say about 24 years old at that time.
Wow.
So still very young.
Yeah.
And people have said, gosh, you had a very successful auto body shop. How did you start it and everything else? I said, honestly, don't know. I said, people sit down, they plan things out, and they get the calculator out, and they figure this out and figure that out. Not me. I just did it.
You just did it.
I just did it. It's kind of like the flying. I really didn't do any planning on the flying. I just did it. And I think when you look at a lot of successful people, they say the same thing. They didn't overthink it, because if you overthink it, you talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And I guess the other side of it was, when I went home with my wife, we both looked at it like we haven't got anything to lose.
Right.
Yeah, we're already at the bottom. So it's like we have no, and this is a favorite saying of mine over the years, is you've got no place to go but up.
Right.
So why not?
Absolutely.
So signed the papers, and I spent about 2 years working from about 6 in the morning to 6 at night on the existing shop while I fixed up the place we're going to move to. I would go after work at 6 to there, work from 6 o'clock to about midnight, 1 o'clock. Go home, grab a bite to eat, go to bed, get up the next morning and do it all again, and doing that 7 days a week. Because most of the work on the building that I was going to move the shop to, I had to do myself.
Oh my gosh.
Begged, borrowed, stole, worked. I never worked so hard in my life. I was out there. And then this was all going on between about this time of year, September, October, November kind of thing. And the biggest thing that I remember telling people is I had to deal with a roofer that was going to put a new roof on the building, but I had to do the roof deck for him. And he said, I'm going to be there Saturday morning. You've got to have it ready for me because I'm going to be there with my crew to put this roof on.
Mm-hmm.
That night we had an ice storm.
Oh, no.
And I go over the building. There's a half-inch of ice on the entire roof. I'm up there with a shovel with spotlights in the middle of the night, shoveling the ice off of the roof so I can pull up the old plywood and nail down new plywood. I was there until 6 a.m. I worked on the roof alone all night in the freezing cold. I was so cold. I was so numb, but I had the roof ready for him when he got there in the morning. He got there and he said, "Were you here all night?" I said, "I was here all night. It's ready for you to put the roof on. I need this building."
Yes.
I did insane things. When you're really driven, you do things you just don't expect you would do. But I did it. Yeah, we managed. We got it. It took a lot longer than I expected. It was about 4 months. I actually had to overstay my lease for 2 months, which, not much you could do about it at the time.
Right.
And it finally got to the point, and I think I had about 4 or 5 people working for me at the time. So I got the gang together on a weekend, and we moved everything over, opened up that Monday with the new location, and was in that location for 8 years. Just did a fabulous business in that location.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were there 8 years. What was the move from there? I know that Naples, and I want you to tell a little bit about your Naples shop, but how did that transition from, you're in New Jersey, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How did the transition from New Jersey, and what happened between those two things?
I'm telling you,
say only what you want to say.
I'm telling you, when I tell you we don't plan anything, we don't plan anything.
Oh, you don't plan?
No, just literal leaps of faith in my whole life. And so the 10th year in business, which was the 8th year in that location, we had like 2 banner years. I mean, we just had great business. My parents had moved to Cape Coral, Florida. Okay. We were we had 2 boys at that time. So we're taking the 2 boys down to Florida to visit my parents. Decided to buy some property there. And then while we were there, we decided to build a house there. Because we thought, well, if we build a house now, we got a place to go when we go down on vacation. We'll stay in our own home, and then we'll rent it in the meantime.
Sure.
We ended up going back home, and Diane, my wife, had picked out some furniture for the house, had gone back down to the house and got it furnished, and then had flown back home. When she got back home, she said, "Well, I don't know about you, but I'm packing my stuff and I'm moving to Florida. Are you coming?" I said, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "I'm moving to the house in Florida."
Oh my gosh.
I said, "We got the business in here." And she goes, "That's your problem." And she put the house up for sale.
Oh, in New Jersey?
In Jersey.
Oh my gosh.
House up for sale in New Jersey. I had a foreman, and I took them all out one day, and I said, "Guys, looks like I'm moving to Florida. I'm going to leave you guys here to run the business. And I'm going to, give you all a piece of the action, everything else. Take care of the business. I'll come back on a quarterly basis every quarter, talk to the accountant, go over the books and stuff like that." But I said, other than that, I guess I'm moving to Florida. We sold the house in a month.
Oh my gosh.
Packed up, moved to Florida, and actually still owned the body shop in New Jersey for 2 years while I did real estate sales in Cape.
Wait a minute. Somehow and knowing you this long, I missed the real estate. You were a real estate agent too?
Yeah, I still have a real estate license in the state of Florida.
Oh my gosh. Now, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
were you as successful in the real estate business as you were in the body shop business?
Absolutely not.
Oh, so now I know where your sales techniques come from. I got you now.
Yeah, I was good with people and talking and all. But
you are.
The real estate it just wasn't me. It's just not my thing. I love cars and airplanes and mechanical things and stuff like that. So happenstance was I met a guy in Fort Myers that owned a body shop. He had sold his about 2 years while I still had known mine. And he had tried to go into construction business and met him through a mutual friend of ours. And we started meeting for breakfast and lunch and all. And Kevin says, "So, how you doing in real estate?" I said, "Awful. I hate it." I said, "How you doing in the construction business?" He says, "Awful. I hate it." So he said, "You know what? why don't we both go back into the auto business ourselves? Let's be
Oh, wow.
partners. And he was from Jersey also. And
Yeah.
that's how we knew a mutual friend from Jersey just happened to meet each other.
Right.
So pretty wild circumstance there. And I said, you know what? Let's do it. So talked to the guys up in Jersey, arranged to have them buy the shop. So the people that work for me bought my shop in New Jersey. Kevin and I went to our mutual friend lived in Naples.
Uh-huh.
Kevin lived in Fort Myers at the time. I lived in Cape Coral. And Bill said, you guys need to open a shop in Naples. They desperately need a quality body shop down here. I'm telling you, there's nobody down here that's got it. So, of course, Kevin and I both had a little bit of money to invest. So we went down, found a building. And Bill actually not only was in the auto body business in New Jersey, but he was an equipment sales guy in New Jersey. He had a business that sold body shop equipment. So he had a shop recently that was closed up, was full of equipment, gave us a great deal. And he said, tell you what, I'll give you a really good deal on this equipment. You guys got to go to Jersey and bring it down to Florida. So Kevin and I, so we rented 2 U-Haul trucks in Florida, drove them to Jersey, dismantled the paint booth, all the equipment, loaded up the 2 trucks, drove them down to Florida, spent about 4 months reassembling everything in the new building in Naples. We named the business Eagle Automotive, and we opened it in August of 1991.
Oh my goodness! Oh.
And we wanted to keep it small. Both of us had pretty good sized businesses, multiple employees. We said, let's keep this small, do really high end quality work, just you and I with maybe a couple of helpers and stuff.
Right.
Within the first year, we ended up hiring 6 people. We were swamped by the Jaguar dealership. The Jaguar Porsche Rover dealership gave us all their cars. Acura heard about us, came knocking on our door. We did all the Acura work. We had more business than we know what to do with. And we said, well, here we are, full blown again. But really having a good time with it. And then about 3 years in, Kevin's wife decided she wanted to change and ask for a divorce. So Kevin said, he says, I don't want to get you tied up in divorce and all. He said, I'll make a deal to buy me out. My soon-to-be ex-wife is agreeable with the buyout. Why don't you just buy me out? So I bought him out. And then actually ran Eagle Automotive for 15 years.
Yep, I remember it. You had had a location that was prime in Naples, and you still have that property.
I still own the property. Gerber Collision. Yep, best investment I ever made is my retirement.
Paul, as I listen, it's just incredible. You talked about, I think part of being an entrepreneur and kind of reinventing yourself is stuff doesn't fall out of the sky, man. You got to do the hard work.
Yeah, it does. No, it does.
It did for you. It didn't for me.
The problem with the stuff that falls out of the sky,
yeah,
it's broken.
Oh, it's
you
broken.
Have to fix it.
See, that's one of your biggest gifts is you can fix anything.
It's like you're a priest and all. I'm not terribly religious, but I believe in God. And I've always felt, actually, as I got older and I look back at these opportunities that came to me, and I thought, it was so wonderful that God provided me with the opportunities. I just can't understand why he made me work so hard for them.
Well, you gotta take care of your own self too.
Oh my gosh. He said, I got this opportunity for you, but you know what? You're going to earn it, and you're going to learn from this. Boy, did I learn from it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I the things I keep hearing is I had to do this, and you had to learn how to do some roofing stuff. You had to learn how to just. But the thing is the one thing I know about you, Paul, is you're a lifelong learner, and you love to learn.
I do.
Yeah, and that's part of being hungry to learn new stuff and not shutting it up. And I think that's the key of reinvention is in not being too old to reinvent yourself. Is you got to be willing to learn. You got to be willing to take on something else. What do you think about that?
Willing to learn, and honestly, you know what? You can't be afraid to do things. You can't say, what if? Well, if if I sat and said, "Oh, what if I get into this building and I don't make it? What if I open this business or start this business and I don't make it? What if I buy this equipment in New Jersey and bring it down to Florida and it
Yeah.
doesn't work?" I never did that. Never
Right.
once even thought that it wouldn't work.
Right.
There is a lot to be said about positive thought,
Right.
and I always said to myself, it's going to work.
Yeah.
It's going to work no matter
Yeah.
what I do. It's going to work. And with that mindset that somehow, some way, I'm going to make it work. I got to tell you, when I got done with the building in New Jersey, when we made that move, I always tell this story too. Is about a month in, the girl that worked for me, Lori, did our payroll. She comes to me midweek on a Wednesday, and she goes, "I need to talk to you in the office." I go, "In the office? What's up?" She goes, "I can't make payroll this week." Like, what are you talking about? Work all over the place, cars all over the place, where places gangbusters. I'm so busy running the body shop, I'm not thinking about that stuff.
Right.
And she
Right.
goes, "Well, we're pretty much out of money." I said, "We're out of money." She goes, "Yeah, we're pretty much out of money." She says, "So where did it all go?" She goes, "Well, you're standing in it." She spent it all on the building. I said, "Oh my God." I said, "Well, how much do I owe?" And she goes, "You don't want to know."
Oh no.
Um, at that time, I had got myself into $125,000 in debt. This is 1984.
Oh my. That's a lot of money in
That's
1994.
that's a lot of money
A
in
lot of money.
'84. So I thought, okay, all right, we got to figure this one out real quick. So I knew I had a lot of work in the shop and I had a lot of cars there. And we were doing about 90% of the work I did was insurance companies. And of course, they don't pay you a dime until you get done with the car.
Right.
Couple of insurance companies I was in a very good standing with. They loved my work and we very good understanding with them. I called them up and I said, "Hey, listen, I got 4 or 5 cars in the shop here. They're all going to be done by Friday or Monday. Any chance I could collect a check now for some of these cars? I'm a little short on my cash in my business right now, and it would be a tremendous help." Every one of them said, "Come on down, I'll give you a check."
Oh my gosh. You
I
asked.
collected
You
I
asked.
collected over $10,000 on Wednesday, put the money in the bank, made payroll, made some more payments on it, and just kept working and
Oh
just
my
kept
gosh.
working. And the other thing I did that every one of my suppliers said they wish that everybody would do this. I went to my part suppliers, my suppliers and all, sat down in their office, and I said, "Look, my situation." Everybody knew me because I was already in business for 4 years at this point. And they all said, "I can't believe you've come to talk to me. Whatever you need, you got it." And I said, "Well, I don't want you to cut me off because I owe you a ton of money. If you cut me off, I won't be able to pay you."
Right.
And
Right.
they said, "No, don't worry about it. I'll talk to my guys. You got whatever you need." I would go down weekly with the checkbook and write a check for what I could afford to each one of these guys every week.
Oh man. Integrity. Integrity.
1 year, I paid off 125,000 in debt.
Oh my gosh.
I
Oh my
cleared it in
gosh.
one. I got out of debt in 1 year.
Incredible.
Yep, yep.
I
I
mean,
made it.
it goes back to what we said earlier. Nothing stood in your way. I mean, it's you.
Nothing.
You,
Yeah,
you just decided that I'm going to make this work, and you were honest with your suppliers. You had integrity. You partnered with them. You had people that believed in you because you proved yourself. You showed up, man. You
I
know.
did, and I got so much help from so many people, and I needed a lawyer for the paperwork to get the building approved by the
Yeah.
by the county and the
Yeah.
town and all. Um, the lawyer guy happened to be a customer of mine, and he said, he says, "I'm inspired because of your age. You're a young guy that's just determined to make it." So he said, "You'll pay me when you can. I'm not even going to give you a price. I'm just going to do this almost pro bono." He said, "Just take care of my car." He had a good friend, Harry Rothstein, which was an architect, and he designed almost all the businesses up and down the road.
Mhm.
And these two guys, without them, I would have never got the approval to put the place there.
Oh, wow.
And they helped me out. They helped me out tremendously. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always these people that if you do right by people, they come around and help you.
Yeah. I agree, and in my own experience, my own story, there's always been someone, you, and others, you, uh, who believed in me sometimes more than I believed in myself. But the one thing that I think we and I have in common is even though we don't have a plan sometimes. Now I am a planner. I like Excel spreadsheets, but um, it's like you can envision, you can see it.
Everything I like. I've done most of the improvements on my home, and I
Yeah,
worked on the shop and all. I can sit and visualize everything in my head, and then from those visualizations, make it happen.
yeah, yeah,
That's my planning. Is I just get this thing in my head, and I get this idea. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it, and then I just do it. Yeah, I
yeah,
just you just walk out the door in the morning, and you look around, and you go, okay, I want to get this done today. How am I going to get this done?
yeah.
And then you figure out how to get it done. That's it. You just do it.
I love it.
Okay, and I'll just close by saying it's bottom line comes down to hard work.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
No,
I want
nobody, like you said, this stuff doesn't fall out of the sky. It really doesn't.
right.
It's you have to make your own luck, and you just have to work. You have to work hard at it. And if you
Yeah,
work hard at it, and it works.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I want to take us back to aviation for a second because it has a direct tie-in, I think, to your shop in Naples. Um,
Sure.
and I think you said earlier that you had this experience of of aviation. You loved aviation as a child and everything and stuff. And then you got your private pilot's license. And I've been a flight instructor for 25 years, and I've seen so many people get their private pilot's license and stop. They either fly for their business or they take their friends up and they never get in the airplane again. But that wasn't your story. What was the moment, if you can think of it, or what was a couple of moments where you said, this ain't enough. I want to do more. That you wanted to pursue it seriously. What can you think of when that moment might have been?
Yeah, through my life, through my business, through flying, I had my wife.
Yeah, yeah,
And, when I started flying, she got involved in it big time. And she helped me with my studies. I would sit there, the poor girl had to sit, and I'd make her drill me on orals. I'd hand her the questions, say, you need to answer these questions. And thank God she was brutal. If I left out an and or a but in the answer, she'd go, no, that's not right. And I'm going, no, that's the answer. And she goes, no, it's not right. Well, what's not right? Well, you didn't say and. Oh, okay. And I will put the gear down. Yes. Oh my God, she was tough. But I think that was kind of the moment for us is we would rent the airplanes and then go out to breakfast, and she would share the flying with me.
yeah, yeah.
And we'd fly together. And I remember having the sectional charts out, the VFR sectional charts, and we'd be trying to find a spot on the sectional chart, and I'd be flying the airplane. So I'd throw the charter and say, find this thing on the chart.
And she could do it.
And she'd find it out, yeah, because we kind of studied together,
Yeah,
so she knew
yeah.
how to read sectional charts.
That's
And
awesome.
she goes, oh, okay, I think you're going the wrong way.
And we didn't talk about that, but I'll kind of just make sure that we share that Paul's beloved Diane passed away. Has it been 3 years now?
2 years.
2 years. 2
Two,
years.
yeah.
Yeah.
2
And
years, April.
she definitely was quite the motivator for you. I remember, and you may not remember this, but I do. I did a pinch hitter course for Diane, if I recall
Yes,
correctly.
you did.
Remember that? Remember
You
that?
did.
Pinch hitter
Yes.
course is one where you take the spouse of a pilot and you get them where they can actually land the airplane without getting ratings and everything. And man, she was good. She was good, and a wonderful,
And
wonderful
I used to
lady.
take her out on a regular basis. We'd go out on a weekend or something, and I'd say, let's go over to Marco and have you do a couple landings.
Is that
And
when
I'd
the
have her.
CFI, the flight instructor thing came up for you? Did you start realizing you were going to be a good teacher? Is that what it was?
Well, a little bit.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
always, it's funny. My mom was a bit of a teacher. My aunt was a bit of a teacher, not
Hmm.
professionals, but my family was always mentoring type people.
Sure,
I
sure.
think
Yeah.
it kind of comes natural in my family. My son Jason ended up being actually put himself through for extra money in college. Did escapes me right now. Tutoring.
Tutoring. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's a math genius, so he did very well with math tutoring. So he did a bit of an instruction like that. So our whole family kind of did instruction, but Um, long story longer.
That's all right. That's all right. This is your story, brother.
So after, you and I flew together and I got my private, and then we started doing these flights, Diane and I, and we decided right away we needed some instrument rating, which you and I did some instrument stuff,
Yep.
but I had bought my own airplane. And
Oh,
you and I were flying around in my 78 Turbo Arrow doing some instrument rating work.
yes, we were.
Got the instrument rating, and then I think actually it might have been your inspiration too. And a couple other people told me, he said, if you get a commercial rating, it'll make you a better pilot. Well, of course, at that time I was interested, and I thought, yeah, you know what? That sounds kind of like fun. And once you get into that kind of focused learning thing, you want more.
Yeah.
The learning, and especially the aviation stuff that I was so interested in, was almost addictive learning.
Yeah.
I just wanted
I can
more and
understand.
more and more. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so, of course, good old King course, downloaded that, started doing the commercial, which you and I did a little bit of flying for the commercial. I got the commercial rating, and the examiner on the way back from the check ride asked me if it was going to be a CFI. And I was still
Okay.
very, very naive in flying. And I went, CFI? I said, do you mean an instructor, a flight instructor? And he goes, yeah. And I said, don't you have to have like thousands of hours for that? And he goes, no, you just passed your commercial. You're good to go now. Just need to do a check ride. And I went, really? So entrepreneur mind says, wait a minute, all this money I just spent on training, you mean I can train in my own airplane and charge for it? Yeah. Okay. I'm doing that.
The entrepreneur comes out again.
I'm doing the CFI. So, of course, did a CFI. So I did my instrument, my commercial, and my CFI in my own airplane, the Arrow. And after I got the CFI, he called me one day, got my name, and said, heard your CFI. And he said, would you be interested in helping me out part-time? Ended up at London while I was still running the body shop, flying as an assistant chief flight instructor.
That was going to be my next question. Thank you for that. So, balancing running that successful body shop with all these employees and doing a great job, and how did you balance that with training and flying? I mean, well, let me go back. I think I know how, but please tell. Thinking of your New Jersey experience.
Well, again, with my wife, Diane was running the business pretty much. She was there every day, day in and day out. I think we had 12 or 14 people at the time in the shop there. I was spending most of my time at the airport. A couple of times I'd show up at the shop and they'd go, "Oh, what are you doing here?" I own the place. Yeah, you go to the airport.
You were bitten pretty hard, weren't you?
Yeah, and I pretty much had the business set up, and I, basically running on autopilot or cruise control, if you will. So
no
it was
pun
doing
intended.
well there.
No pun intended.
But it just, got to the point where, after I was doing the flight instruction for Mark, there was a guy that had a beach jet, and he asked me if I wanted to fly in the beach jet with them. And I said, sure, I wouldn't mind doing a little bit of that part-time. And, before I know it, people are offering me full-time jobs. I got the type rating in the beach jet, and it got a little bit too much.
Wait a minute.
Doing
both. You went from CFI, teaching at London, and then you got a job on a beach jet and got a type rating. That sounds familiar. Keep going.
Yeah.
So anyway, you're flying the beach jet. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, at some point it just got too much to run the shop and do all this flying. So we decided to just sell the body shop. So we sold the body shop, and I decided to go full-time.
Wow.
And went full-time flying the beach jet. And so I guess what was I, 40... about 3 years into it. So 46 years old.
Wow.
And you're to fly professionally.
So you flew beach jet. Were you based out of Naples or were based out of the East Coast? I can't remember when you're flying the beach jet.
So initially flying right seat with a guy beach jet based out of Naples for about a year.
Okay.
Yep. And I did about 100 hours with him in the beach jet. That same year, because we sold the shop that year. So not only was I doing the flight instruction, but I got a job with Gulf Coast Airways flying in Aztec on Part 135.
Oh, I remember
started
that.
learning the part. Yes, flying Aztec, flew the Aztec all over the place.
And
then I had another guy.
for some of our non-pilots, explain part 135. Brief, not
So part one,
not the whole regulation, just.
so part 135 is basically Uber.
Okay, I like it.
You're
Yes,
you're an Uber driver.
you're an Uber
Yeah,
driver.
you take a light small airplane. People call for a ride, and you show up with the airplane, and you give them a ride, and they pay you. So it's charter. They charter the airplane, but it really comes down to Uber. It's pretty much probably where Uber got the idea, was from charter flying.
Absolutely. So,
But
any really interesting trips in the Aztec?
oh God, where do I start?
What is one adventure that stands out? A short snippet of one adventure that really taught you a lot.
I had 4 architects that needed to go to Tallahassee,
Mhm.
and they wanted to leave Florida early in the morning, so we left early. And this is summertime, so we go up to Tallahassee. They have their meeting. It's about 3 p.m. in Tallahassee. Thunderstorms everywhere. And we launch out of Tallahassee, and I am dodging thunderstorms all the way back to Naples. There's pretty much one thunderstorm that I can't get under, I can't get over, and I can't get around, and I've got to go through it. There's just no place to go. And it's closing in behind me, so I can't even do a turnaround and go back. And I warned these guys, I said, it's going to get a little rough. I almost quit flying that day.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was, to say a rough flight was an understatement, but we made it through. Got down to Naples. I think these guys were white as ghosts. Probably never flew again.
But it was that tenacity you have that got you through it for sure. I'm sure.
Oh God, yeah. So of course, I kept flying, and there is a period you said earlier about how many private pilots get the license, do some flying, and then stop.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 students call me, of my own students, that talk to me about this. There was a point right after I think I got the instrument rating where I don't know what happened, but I was absolutely petrified to fly.
Oh, okay.
I was petrified. There was a couple times when I went over to the hangar and was almost physically sick getting in the airplane to go fly and couldn't fly.
Was there something that happened that led to that, or was it just
nothing direct that I can think in my mind that happened?
Yeah.
For some reason in my mind, I kept running these scenarios of stuff that could happen while I'm flying.
Oh, okay.
And I couldn't seem to shake it.
Yeah.
And even though I would convince myself I'm being foolish and this is stupid and everything else, I get in the airplane, I would literally be shaking. And I'd fly around the pattern in Naples, take the airplane back and put it in the hangar and be petrified. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of people that don't want to admit that. And they would just as soon give up flying than admit that they're too scared to fly.
Sure.
And again, with me, I'm not going to fail. So what I did, I kept going over to the hangar. I kept taking the airplane up, and I kept flying the pattern.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if, like you said, if people that are non-pilots that don't know what flying the pattern is you take off from the runway and you basically make a circuit around the airport and you land again. And then you take off again, and then you land again. So it's a very short circuit, low altitude, and I kept doing that. And then I would venture out to a nearby airport and do the pattern there, and then venture back. Little bit by bit, I got more and more comfortable with flying my light airplane. And that's when I became the CFI, because then I started taking the airplane further, a little bit more trips. And I think it's just trying to break the idea of being solo. We fly with an instructor,
right?
And then we fly with friends. So you don't really get much solo flying in the airplane completely alone by yourself. Mm-hmm. And then with a couple of trips when you're completely alone in that airplane, as you know, that's some tremendous solitude.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You are alone. You're more alone in your entire life than you've ever been when you're alone in that airplane in the air.
Yeah.
It's one of the most terrifying things, but it's also one of the most beautiful things about flying, isn't it?
Oh, I love it. You know what, it makes perfect sense now. The way you explain it is, I never thought of that, but that is probably true because, I mean, a lot of people get what, 10, 15, maybe 10, 15 hours of solo time before they get their license and they're taking their family up and everything. And yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I had a couple students talk to me and came to me and they explained, they said, "Hey, I got to talk to you." I said, "Yeah, let's meet for lunch." I said, "What's going on?" They're like, "I can't fly." And I'm like, "Scared to death, aren't you?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then we would talk about it. And I said, you need to just keep doing it. I said, if you really want to do this, you got to get in the airplane and just go fly. Yeah,
Yeah.
just have to overcome that feeling. And you will. I did. And if I did, you can. And eventually they would. They called me back and said, "Thank you very much. It's exactly what I did. I just kept doing it and then got over the fear."
That's so good because, I mean, and that's the teacher in you and the mentor in you is you see in people what they can't see in themselves. You've taken your own experience of having all these brick walls sometimes that you hit, but you never let the brick wall stop you. You always went over it, or you went around it, or you dug underneath it, or you put a new roof over it. Somehow
True.
and you showed them. But that's perfect. That's perfect. I want to switch gears for just a second if we can. So
Sure.
we're at the point. No, this is good. This is great. So we're at the point where you're flying the beach jet, you're flying and flying the Aztec 135 charter flying. What was after, and how did you shift to the left seat captain, and what were you flying, and then what was after that? And then what I want to lead to is how did that get you to being a chief pilot at another charter company that I know well? Can you kind of take us down that path?
So yeah, at this point, again, I'm flying the Beechjet right seat, and they had just given me a second in command co-pilot type rating.
Huh?
That year, I did 100 hours in the airplane, and I realized I wasn't going to be able to get work with just the SIC type rating in it or the second command type rating in it. I needed a pilot in command type rating, full type rating. They weren't willing to spend the money to do that.
Mhm.
Was talking to somebody one day and they said, "Hey, in Orlando, Simcom just put a beach jet simulator in and they just started training in it. And they're giving a pretty big break for people that want a type rating. And you've already got the experience. You could get the upgrade. You don't have to go for the full type rating."
Sure.
So I called Simcom and got a very good deal on a full PIC type rating. And I went and did that. And I got the PIC type rating. I'm going to digress for a moment
Sure.
to
Sure.
kind of lead into this story a little bit too. A good friend of mine that used to come to the body shop, even before I was a pilot, flies Gulfstreams. After I started flying, I said to Chuck one day, I said, "How do you get into jets? It's the chicken and the egg. Nobody will hire you because you don't have experience. You
Right.
can't get the experience because nobody will hire you." So I was like, "How did you do it?" And he goes, "Well," he says, "honestly," he said, "I got my own type rating." He said, "When I got my own type rating, I was working professionally a week later."
Oh my gosh.
I, I said, "Really? You got a type rating?" He said, "A week later, I got high." And he went full bore. He decided rather than just get any old type rating, he got the Gulfstream type rating.
Oh my
He
gosh.
actually took a mortgage on his house, second mortgage to go get the Gulfstream type rating. But he said
I'm
once he got the
familiar with that
PIC,
too.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So he got a type rating. So much later that after he had told me that I thought, you know what? I'm going to do what Chuck did. I'm just going to go get my own type rating. Got my type rating, came home, looked up some ads for beach jet pilots, and put some resumes out. I don't think it was 3 days. I'll never forget it. I was standing in the FBO at Naples Airport. My phone rang. Lady calls up and says, "Is this Paul Scott?" I said, "Yes." She says, "You have a type rating in the beach jet." It's like, "Oh, yes, I do." She goes, "Well, I'm calling you, and we're looking for beach jet pilots." And right away I said, "Well, I'm not moving. One thing I never wanted to do was move for my type rating."
Right.
And she said, "Oh, no, you don't have to move. It's a home based. We'll airline you to the airplane and back so you can remain living in your house. You're near RSW Airport." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "That's perfect." She said,
Oh
"Can you come
wow.
out Monday for a meeting?" It's like, "You mean like Monday tomorrow?" Yeah. I said, "Okay." So flew out Monday, did the interview, got hired. And she said, "Can you be back here in a week for class?"
Oh my gosh. Oh my
It
gosh.
happened that fast. It
That's
was that
amazing.
fast that I found myself popping around in Aztecs and King Airs and flight instruction to sitting full time in a beach jet,
Oh my gosh.
flying for a charter company out of Elkhart, Indiana.
But it didn't just fall out of the sky. You had to work hard for it and had to invest in it. You had to invest in that
So
type rating.
I got the type rating, and we've talked about first sims. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. 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 Let's not mention that.
yeah. No, nobody ever forgets the first
Oh,
simulator
my
ride.
gosh. Oh, my gosh.
It was brutal.
Oh, I bet.
But yeah,
So
that started the path off. So I ended up working for them for almost 3 years.
for 3 years.
Yeah.
When did you? What was between that and where you were chief pilot at one time?
So that ended up being a schedule that was 15 days on, 13 days off. So that means
Oh my.
airlining out and living in hotels for 15 days.
Oh
Um,
wow.
People used to say, how do you do it? And I said, well, it's kind of like a 2-week vacation every 2 weeks. You work for 2 weeks, you're 2 weeks off. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of pros and cons to it.
Sure.
But I got tired of it after 3 years,
Sure.
and found a job in Fort Lauderdale.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't too bad of a drive from my house to Fort Lauderdale. Really no schedule. It was basically an on-call position, flying beach jets, and flew that in the captain position. I had made captain upgrade while I was at Elkhart.
Right.
And then I got the job as a captain in the beach jet in Fort Lauderdale.
Gotcha.
And then flew for them for I think it was almost 2 years, and got a call from a guy with a position for a beach jet out of Naples.
Mm-hmm.
Out of Tampa, was going to manage a beach jet based in Naples.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and talked to them, and I took that position on. So I flew for them for about a year, managed it for about another half a year for the owners before they got rid of it. They got rid of it. I ended up taking a position over in Miami, Opelika Airport, Miami executive, flying the beach jet and then the Lear 45.
So you got the Lear type. You got a Lear type as well.
Lear 45.
Lear 45. Right,
yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And strangely enough, a mutual friend of ours that you know now is Al Russo.
I know Al.
Was flying one of the beach jets that him and I had flown out of Naples. He called me up one day and he said, "Hey, did you see there's a new startup in Naples? This is 2017. And I said, yeah, he's going to buy a bunch of airplanes and he's going to put them with Mark and start a charter company. I said, I'm doing okay, the air services executive. I said, I don't think I'm interested. So funny enough, I'm telling you, when you look back how these things happen, someone has a plan, and I've been following their plan unbeknownst to me ever since I was born. Because 2 days later, after I talked to Al, I get this call, and they said, "Hey, I hate to do this to you. You got to drive over to Miami, and you got to fly the Learjet over to Naples. We got a trip out of Naples." And I thought, so drive over to Miami, fly the Learjet over to Naples. They park me across from, and I see a Phenom sitting out there, beautifully painted Phenom. And I thought, well, that must be the new guy. I got some time to kill. Might as well wander over. Wandered over. Here's this guy, wonderful man. Walked up to him and I said, "Hey," I said, "Is this?" Yeah, I'm the assistant chief pilot. And I said, "Oh," I said, "Yeah, I saw you had startup." I said, "I just came over to look at the Phenom." I said, "Great looking airplane." He said, "Oh, really nice airplane." So he says, "What are you flying?" I said, "Oh, the Lear 45 over there." He says, "Oh, where are you based?" And I said, "Well, based out of Opelika, but I live here in Naples." He goes, "Oh, you live here in Naples?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You're not interested in a job by any chance, are you?" And I'm like, "Well," I said, "Maybe." I said, this kind of be ideal for me. So why don't we go inside and talk for a minute?
Yeah.
So I said, "Okay." So I went inside to talk, and he said, "I need pilots. I need them right now." Well, I knew the Lear was being sold, so I wasn't going to have an airplane to fly in about a month.
Right.
So I got down my Lear trip, went in, talked to my owner, was the guy that owned I said to him, I said, "Listen, I got an opportunity in Naples for a job. I don't want to leave you high and dry on the 45 here, but I know it's going away and I need to take the job, but they need me right away." He said, "Tell you what, we're not that busy. Go ahead and take the job."
Oh my gosh.
I said, so I went back to Dave, talked to Dave, and I said, "I still got to help out with the Lear for a little bit for about a month." And okay, that's fine. We'll work around that. He says, "Can I get you out next week for the type rating?" I'm like, whoa, next week? He said, "Yeah." I said, "Sure, I guess." He said, "Fine, you're hired." I got a slot in Dallas for you next week.
Oh my gosh, they sent you to Dallas right away. Oh my gosh, what a type.
He says you're gonna be on a plane next week at the Dallas for the initial. Went out, did the initial, came back home, went back over to them, did the 135 checks with Dave, did a 297, 293, 299.
Yeah.
Actually, we went up to Charleston, where he had a home up in Charleston. Did the check ride after that, and did the check ride and everything with him for the 135. And 2 days later, I was flying trips.
Oh my gosh.
It was like within 3 weeks, I went from the Lear to the Phenom to the type rating to 135 for elite jets and started flying trips. Did 946 hours the first year.
Oh my gosh. And folks, just so you know, 946 hours flying in a year. Think about that. That's a lot of flying. I mean, that's just tremendous amount of flying.
That's a lot of flying.
That's a lot of flying. Yep. That's probably just shy of 80 hours a month. That's incredible. That's incredible.
So they had 4 Phenoms and a Legacy, and they had hired 6 pilots to fly the Phenoms all about the same time. I was like the first guy hired. And actually, my employee number is 9.
I love it. I love it.
I think they currently employ almost 100 people now.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. There was a time where this stuff does fall in from the sky from you. There was a time though where an opportunity came for you, and we'll take a minute or two. Just share the story about how you became the chief pilot there.
So
without revealing names, of course. But
yeah. So when it started, had bought a charter certificate. So in order to operate a charter company with the FAA, of course, you have to have certificates and licenses and approvals and all that stuff. So there was a business up in Rochester, New York, that was going out and still had a certificate. So they purchased the certificate. Along with the certificate, some of the personnel management had retired. One guy that had run the company for them was retired in Tampa. So they called him and they said, would you help us get this running? So he said, sure, I'll do it part-time. Believe it or not, he was in Tampa selling real estate.
Everybody that goes to Florida, no, I'm kidding.
Everybody goes to Florida. Called the old maintenance director, was like hired right with me. We were hired about the same time. And then they had a assistant chief pilot, and Dave left. They hired a guy, became the chief pilot. Jack and Marcelo had some disagreements with the owner and quit on the same day. And when they quit, with FAA regulations, you cannot operate the charter business without those 2 main personnel. Mm-hmm. So you're out of business. You're done. The airplanes are parked.
Yep.
So the company, I think at the time, we were only employing maybe 15 people at the time with about 6 or 7 pilots. I was actually out at Dallas for a 6-month check on my airplane, on the Phenom. He called me and he said, we just checked with everybody in the company. You're the only one qualified to take the position on for chief pilot to do it immediately. Will you take the position? Nope. No, thanks. Not interested. Chief pilot has a lot to do with managing people. I was in the body shop business for 25 years, managing people, and I didn't really want to do that anymore. I always tell everybody I just wanted to go fly airplanes.
Right.
That's all I want to do now. I just want to go fly airplanes.
Just want to fly airplanes.
So I have to tell this because this is kind of a great story. There was this guy that was in our operations center, and he was a bit of a Star Wars fan, and I'm a bit of a Star Wars fan, right? So he was a young guy that always had a lot of questions for me, and he started calling me Obi-Wan, and I started calling him my young apprentice. So he would call me. I see it was him calling. I'd answer the phone and say, yes, my young apprentice, what can I help you with today? And he says, but Obi-Wan Kenobi, I have these questions. So I had told Mark, no, I don't want to be chief pilot. Somebody else had called me. I said, no, I really don't want the chief pilot. So I get a call from Nelson, was his name. So Nelson calls me. And I said, yeah, I heard all about it, what's going on. He said, but Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope.
Oh, that's it.
I said, "Oh, that's not fair.
That's not fair.
That's not fair." He said, "Come on, you got to do it." And I'm like, "Okay, fine." So I called Mark back. Mark said, "I got an airline waiting for you. Go get in the airline and come back. You're chief pilot."
Oh my gosh. And how long? I can't remember. How long were you chief pilot there?
6 years.
This is just temporary,
I
Paul. This is
I
just temporary.
I told him I would do it for a little while.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. 6 years later.
6 years later. Yeah.
6 years later.
So, of course, with the passing of my wife, I wanted to simplify my life a little bit. Went to Mark and I said, "Listen, I'd like to just go back to just flying airplanes if I could. Find somebody else for chief pilot." So it's been a wonderful 2 years not being chief pilot.
Well, what's funny, and I was going to mention this early on, but I think it's a good time to say it. Part of we were going to record a couple hours ago, Paul and I, at 6 o'clock after dinner, and Paul calls me
Yeah.
up. He goes, Eric, I got to postpone our call. And I said, why, Paul? And he goes, I got a pop up flight. I'm going to went to Greensboro, North Carolina tonight. What time do you land? I think it was 7 o'clock, right? You were going to land at 7. I
Yeah.
said, he says, well, we can do it at 7. I'm like, no, 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 no. When you land, you got to go get something to eat. Go eat. We'll do it at 8 o'clock. So Paul just made a flight just a few hours ago from Naples up to Greensboro. So he's still
Well, I'm
flying.
sitting in the hotel. I'm sitting in the hotel room in Greensboro.
Yeah, he's a hotel jockey today. So,
Yeah. I'm in the
you know,
hotel at Greensboro.
I got a couple more questions for you. Thank you for sharing that. And Paul, I am grateful, brother. You've been one of my dearest friends. You're a brother to me. I'm thankful that you've had an opportunity to help me launch this podcast because I think your story is one that is just incredible. So I got a couple more questions for you.
Well,
But
you
go
have
ahead.
been an awesome friend to me over the years. We're always there for each other, no matter what. I think one of the I almost choke up over this, but I think one of the best things in my life was when you called me and I said you're hired.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh my gosh.
I don't think I have enjoyed anything more in my
Uh,
life than to be able to say to my very good friend pilot, first flight instructor, my mentor, to say, you know what, dude, you're hired.
and part of that story is Paul actually did my initial flight instruction in the Phenom. Now that was a hoot. Do you remember that? You
I
actually taught
do.
you when I was getting I got an SIC type and later a PIC type rating at Dallas, but my SIC type, Paul did all of the training for me in the jet. So everything that I have as a jet pilot today, I go back to what Paul taught me. And there's another moment that you and I shared that was pretty particular. Do you remember that?
Well, I just gonna say too, and what you're saying there is the student became the master.
Ah, yes, sir, Obi-Wan.
Yes. What was the other milestone? I'm going to let
Well,
you tell that.
we were going to California. I think we went to I think it was California. We went to Dallas and did a refuel. We're taking a nice couple out there. It was funny and
Yep.
ironic that we landed at the Charles Schultz Airport in
That's
California,
right.
right?
I
Right.
remember that.
So Paul
Yep.
and I, this is a long flight, and so we're going out to California. And Paul says, something special's getting ready to happen. I said, what's that? And he goes, I'm getting ready to cross a major threshold in my flight hours. I said, well, what is it? And he goes, I'm going to cross 10,000 hours. And I said, wait a minute, you're going to cross 10,000 hours with me in the right seat because I was flying right seat with you that time. And he goes, yep.
Yep.
And I thought, and we blew this story up, Paul and I, around the office. We were like, so Eric was with me for my first hour and he was with me for
First
my
hour and my 10,000th
10,000th
hour.
hour, and we've got some pictures of that. And that was so meaningful for both of us. I think it meant a
Now,
lot.
now, 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 tell me there's not something that guides us through this stuff, right?
Oh,
I mean, I
absolutely.
meet you, I end up flying, end up professional, you end up back with me for my 10,000th hour.
Yeah, yeah. I love it.
That's
I love
special.
it.
That's
And
special, isn't it?
and you've inspired me because now I get to be an instructor again, teaching people to fly the Gulfstream jet.
I
And
know.
I get to pass on things that you shared with me. And matter of fact, for another conversation, I'll share a wonderful flight I had with one of the people working on their rating today. So anyway, a couple more quick questions for you, brother. And I'm so grateful that you're here.
Sure.
I think I may have
Oh,
asked
I'm very
this.
glad to be here. This is a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
I love it. I love it. Um, was there ever a moment at all that you almost gave up? Other than the one where you were afraid of flying for a little while, but other than that, was there ever a point where you just said, I'm done? or you doubted yourself?
Uh, yeah, yeah. There was actually the 3 years after flying for 3 years. Um, we were doing the instrument check for the beach jet,
Hmm.
and um, I was honestly the I don't want to talk too bad about them at all, but it was a 15-day schedule, which we originally did our training within the 15 days.
Right.
The last year there, they decided that we were going to do our training after our 15-day rotation, which was 3 to 4 days of training.
Hmm.
So now we're looking at almost 20 days out on the road for the
Oh my.
training.
Right.
And we had gotten very busy the last year. I had probably flown close to 40 hours in 15 days.
Oh my gosh.
And now I'm going to go out and do training for another 3 or 4 days.
Hmm.
I was tired, wasn't happy about it. I'd kind of had it with doing what I was doing. And honestly, at that point, I quit. I quit the company and drove away thinking to myself, I'm going to go do something else. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm toast. Yeah. It was kind of a time where there was a bit of a lull in the aviation industry too. Jobs were scarce,
Yeah.
and honestly, they weren't treating pilots nicely.
Gotcha.
They were pretty much abusing pilots, and I thought, what have I gotten myself into?
Sure.
And basically, I took a month off, didn't do anything for a month, and actually, I went over to Rex Air and started working for Rex Air.
As a flight instructor again.
I went back to flight instruction.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Which
I thought I
for a
thought
lot of us, that's our first love, if you think about it.
yeah. I thought I'm just going to go back and do some flight instruction. And actually, I think I spent almost 3 months doing flight instruction, Cirrus, and all that with Rex.
Yeah.
And guy came in, and Tim wanted to get a refresher on his instrument multi-engine. So I started working with Tim, and he says, I'm looking to buy an airplane. I want to buy a 421. And he said, I'm in the trucking business, and most of the flights are going to be around Florida and the eastern United States, maybe some trips to Texas.
Sure.
So he said, would you want a job? And I said, you know what? I think a 91 job flying a 421 would be kind of fun.
Sure. Sure.
So I helped him buy the 421. I worked for him for about a year and flew the 421 all over the United States.
Oh my gosh. And that's a twin engine prop aircraft.
Twin engine, prop
Pretty good size.
pressurized twin engine.
Pretty good size aircraft.
Yeah, it was a very nice airplane to fly. I tell you what, what a fun airplane to fly.
Yeah.
Very fun. I really enjoyed flying at King Air when I did some King Air flying, but the 421 was a fantastic airplane to fly. And of course, we built one. I kind of worked with him to build one up, and it had the guy spent more money on a 421 than anybody in his right mind would have spent. It was the world's nicest 421.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
And then the job, I think that's when the Elite Air job popped up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was
Excellent.
after. Or no, that was the Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale job popped up, and I went to Fort Lauderdale. Then from Fort Lauderdale was the one I went to Tampa airplane base in Naples, and there was a 91 kind of in between that out of Naples too, and then the job out of Opelika.
Gotcha.
So typical aviation.
Yeah, but I think what you said was really critical is that there's times when we're in the middle of chasing our dream that it's not a roadblock, but it's a detour. You come to a fork in the road, and it's okay to make a decision, right? And the thing is you take this different path, but you don't know where it's going to lead. And I've said this many times. I've said to a friend of mine, I said, I have a sense that my transition's not over because we're always being remade. Change is inevitable for all of us. So
true.
I got one more question for you. I think this is one that will kind of bring our time to a close. And Lord, I could talk to you all night. And by the way,
me too. We do.
I miss flying with you because man, 3 hours in the Phenom with you is like a joy. So, all right. So here's the question.
Oh, I know. Our trips went so quick together.
Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. So here's the question, and I'll end every podcast with this, and I want you to think about this one because I think it's important because I think your story is inspirational, and I think it's going to help other people to be inspired to go after what they're dreaming about. So for people who are listening and who are standing on the edge of a big life change, what advice would you give them? Somebody that's standing on the edge of a big old life change.
Don't think about it too much. I mean, you just, you want to make considerations and you want to think about it. If I do this, what are the ramifications? What are the consequences if I make this change?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's if I look back and I say, there's what do they say that hindsight's 20/20?
Right.
If I look back at decisions I made, I don't regret a one of them. And every one of them I look at, I think to myself sometimes, if I had thought a little bit more of that, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because
yeah.
I would have overthought it.
Yeah.
Buying an airplane, that was a massive step.
Mm-hmm.
That was huge to buy my own airplane. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know how to buy an airplane. I didn't realize you could finance an airplane. And, didn't really understand how the whole process worked. But then I found AOPA, joined AOPA, talked to them a little bit, learned about what it is for airplane ownership, how it works and everything else, and thought, okay,
right.
I could do that, and there's people to help you along the way, you
right.
work with those people a little bit. And I mean, next thing I know, I bought an airplane.
I love it.
And I'm an airplane owner.
And I think you said something. I think you said something right there that a lot of people. I think there are people out there to help you. A friend of mine said one time, "Are you dreaming about something?" Yes, I am. Have you told anybody about it? What? Have you told anybody about it? Well, no. Don't you think you should? Because once you put it out there, people come along that will help you with your dream. And in a different conversation or different interview I'll do is I had 4 people, you being one, who actually were a part of that, who came along and helped encourage me to go after what I was dreaming about. So the advice you would give is don't think about it too much.
Don't overthink it. You can't overthink it. If it feels right and it's something that you have a strong desire that you feel you want to do, just do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
what you got to lose?
I got to take the Nike slogan. Just do it.
Just do it. It's the best advice I've heard.
Just do it. Don't worry too much about it. I mean, it's what it's. I think all my life I thought, what's the worst that could happen is I go knock on somebody's door and say, I need a place to sleep and eat.
You got one in Savannah, always, my brother. You've always got one.
Right? I got friends. I know there's somebody to take me in.
That's right.
But I've never even had to come close to that. I've been very successful with everything. I mean, whether there's some decisions I would have changed to make things different, maybe.
Yeah.
But I really look back and like I said, I don't have any regrets. And as to what you were saying too with people, when you talk to people, you talk to friends, talk to strangers even, and you tell them what you're thinking. And it's funny how people kind of almost come alive.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to encourage someone else to take that dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you start telling them what you're thinking, they're like, "Is that you really want to go do that?"
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do this. Well, how can I help you?
Yeah, exactly.
Almost everybody. Yeah. How can I help you? I said, well, I tell you, I could use a little help in this area. Let's do that.
Yeah.
They inevitably want to, if you have that enthusiasm and the excitement and the drive and they see that, they want to be part of that.
Yeah.
They want to feel like, oh, how can I help this guy out? Can I help him with it? Makes them feel good to help someone.
Absolutely.
And in turn, and you and I do the same thing with other people. We try to encourage them and help them. And I've gotten calls from, I'm sure you have too, over the years from students thanking me for the help in flying. And I got a call from a real tearjerker guy. Hired a guy one time in the body shop. I'll just kind of digress to this for a moment. Wife and him walked into my body shop one day in New Jersey. His wife comes up to the counter and she said, "This is my husband, Rui. Doesn't speak any English. He's just here from Portugal. Really good at fixing cars, and we need a job." And I said, "How's he with bodywork?" She goes, "You wouldn't believe how good he is with bodywork. His uncle owned a shop in Portugal." I said, "Fine. I need a guy. He's hired. I got a call about 5 years ago. So this is what, 30 some years after he
Yeah,
worked for
yeah,
me,
yeah.
from this guy with almost perfect English. And he said, I don't know if you remember me. My name is Rui. She said, yeah. I said, you speak English? He goes, yeah, a long time now. I said, oh my gosh. He said, I found you on Facebook. And he says, I got your number. And he said, I want to let you know, I have a big body shop in Lakehurst, New Jersey.
Oh my
And I learned
gosh.
everything from you.
Oh my gosh. You're gonna make me cry.
Him, him and his
That's
wife have a very successful body shop in Lakewood, New Jersey.
yeah.
And he wanted to call and thank me. He said, I watched you carefully and I learned everything I know from you.
Oh my gosh. That's
Is that a
amazing.
hell of a call to get?
That is, man. And
That,
that's
yeah,
that's that's your joy, my friend. That's your joy. Cause and Paul and I, I'll kind of close it with this is Paul and I had this thing that when we were flying in the airplane, I used to tell him, you have these keys like you do in a car. And the way the ignition on an aircraft works is you don't want to be out messing around with the propeller and have the keys ignition and turn the magnetos on, because if you move the prop, you probably unlikely, but you could actually get the engine to fire off. So I used to tell Paul and all my students, put the keys up on the dashboard. So if you see the keys and you're out around the prop, you know they're not in the ignition. And I swear I did a flight review with Paul years ago, and you might not remember this, but you remembered me teaching you that, and you said you've taught all your students that. And the point I'm trying to make is
every student.
those little things that we pass on to people stay with them, even the
Yeah,
smallest things. So
yeah,
I think that's part of what I'm trying to do with this podcast. I've got is just to give people a chance to tell the story about how they encouraged others, and to say, hey, look, if you're thinking about making a change in your life and you got a dream, there ain't nothing can stand in your way. Go do it. And if you need somebody to
yeah.
talk with, we're here, man. And if my hope is I can put some information out there about you, and I know you love to mentor people, and I do too, and
I
so
do.
that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm hoping we can actually do. So, Paul, brother, what a joy to be with you, brother.
Tell you
We
what, brother.
planned it for an
Yeah.
hour. It's an hour and 20 minutes, and I love it. I love
Hour and 20
it.
minutes.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm not going to edit anything. This is great. This is great.
That we could do this all night. Yeah.
We could, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I've only
We
got
could
so
do it.
much
Oh,
recording.
we got more stories we could tell. Oh my gosh.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. We could tell a lot of stories.
We got to do interview two when you've done your next flying job, whatever that might be.
Sure.
uh, Paul, I love you, brother. Thank you for being with me tonight. What a joy.
It's been wonderful. I really enjoyed this. Thanks for this.
Uh,
This really mean a lot to me too.
all right, my friend. I'm going to. All right, that's it, folks. We want to thank you for being a part of the podcast tonight. And I want you to always remember that it's never too late to chase your dreams. Thank you so much for joining us, and be with us every 2 weeks, where we'll have our next episode. We'll be featuring another person who chased their dream. And thank you again for listening in. Take care.